Welcome, everyone. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are still making music throughout their life and what I call lifelong learning in music education. Lifelong learning, making music beyond the classroom. It's so exciting. We're sponsored by our business called Art and Music Emporium, which we serve artistic excellence. We do things like fix instruments, do instrument repair, as I just said, cleanings, those kind of things. I do a little bit of retail, that kind of stuff. But we also do some things, what we call performance initiatives, which, depending when you're watching this, we do an annual Community Band by the Sea event down in Wildwood, New Jersey, which is usually the end of July. We just did one in 2024 at Music Fest in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, called the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band. And we're hoping to do that again in 2025. And right now, believe it or not, as the end of the year is approaching us, I'm gearing up for Tuba Christmases, believe it or not. So if you're interested in any of those events, check out artmusicemporium.com. And anybody can participate. We actually have rehearsals that happen either the day before or the day of, and you can participate. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, and then you can hear more notifications that come out. We're also on Facebook at Art and Music Emporium, and do like us there. I also do have a Patreon account that any money goes towards helping individuals kind of continue making music. So that's what this is all about, helping folks who continue making music, instructing people who are continuing making music, and hopefully making awareness of this whole thing called online learning and music education. So excited you're here. I'm excited about our next guest. I know I met her actually through the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band. I know she couldn't come to our concert, but she actually reached out to us, and we had a great talk. And it was just so fun to hear the kind of things that she's doing with she's a teacher, but also doing things with other folks in like I call this lifelong learning and music education, with an orchestra, and the really terrible orchestra of Pennsylvania. And I'm really excited to kind of get into this. So please welcome Carol Esbin. How are you, Carol? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you
Good.
so much for being here. I appreciate us. Let's kind of take a little time right now, and we'll take a little time and kind of dig into what you do and how you came here to music making. So as far back as you want to go, I always say. And
All
then we'll
right.
go from there.
Well, my first musical instrument was piano,
Okay. Mhm.
and I started when I was about 10 years old. And it's interesting how I came across the piano because, you know, ages 5 to 9, I never bugged my mom or dad, "Can I play the piano? I wanna play the piano, I wanna play," that just never crossed my mind because we didn't have a piano.
Yep.
So around 1959, the city of Bethlehem was in the process of building a new city center,
Oh,
and
okay.
they were tearing down the old Bethlehem City Market on 3rd Street. And on the second floor of the city market was the Bethlehem Police Station. Somehow my father was there helping to clean out the old Bethlehem Police Station up on the second floor
Hmm.
and move everything over to the new the current police station on the north side.
Yeah.
Somebody hollered, "Who wants the piano?" And it was a big, upright, heavy player piano. My dad said, "I'll take it." Somehow, I don't know how they got it down the steps. I know how big and heavy that piano was. They got it into a truck. They brought it to my house. It was pouring rain. It was dark. I remember me and a couple of my brothers were watching TV. That was the only light on in the living room. My dad flings open the door, says, "Make room, I have a piano." Oh my gosh, okay, so up and at 'em, and we move furniture, and they bring this humongous player piano into the living room. That was I'm sure it was on a weeknight, and by Saturday, I had my first piano lesson.
Awesome.
And that was that.
So if you can remember, just kind of before we move on from there, what was your fascination with music at that point in your life? I mean, if you, like I said, if you can remember, I know piano, I always say this, and it's sad today because I think it's not a staple so much in everybody's home anymore, but it was, and I know it still is for some. So I'm just interested to see what your kind of interest is with that instrument. If we could just start there, yeah. If you remember.
Well, now we had a piano, so now I started taking lessons, and my piano teacher lived about half a block up the street from my grandfather's house.
Uh-huh.
So my piano lessons were at 11 o'clock on Saturday, and after my lesson, I would walk down to my grandfather's house, and we would go to a hamburger shop like a charcoal place
Hmm. Hmm.
on 8th Avenue in Bethlehem. And we would have the same thing every week. He'd have a
Yep.
steak sandwich and a cup of coffee, and I'd have a hamburger and a chocolate milkshake. And then we would go to my grandmother's grave and
Okay.
visit her grave and take flowers and make sure everything was nice around it. So it was very emotional. It was all tied up in all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And um, from what I've heard, my grandmother also played the piano, but she did not have a piano in their house, as you know, from when I remember.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like, she said, "Oh, you need to learn to play the piano." No, but
Yep.
uh, it all got tied up with that. So,
Well, that's great because it just, yeah, kind of care that family connection is just, even if, there was no word said, it's
right.
just, and the other thing I wanted to share is, how you described how it was a whole part of this experience that you did every day of, the days of that you were doing your rehearsals, that is, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And, or your lessons, I should say, not rehearsals.
Right.
But it's just very interesting to me how, that has grown in your memory and you wanted to kind of still be involved with that. So I don't know. It just warms my heart a little bit.
Exactly. Mine too.
So as you moved forward, why don't you explain a little bit of kind of what you did beyond that as far as making music and then, we'll obviously get into the adult world.
Okay, well, in high school, I went to Salisbury High School, and I was in the band and the chorus, and I was the accompanist for the chorus, and
Okay.
so on. And my mother, I remember her coming to an open house and asking the band director if he would give
Hmm.
me another instrument to play.
Okay.
So I ended up learning going on to the bass clarinet, and I was on that for a couple of years. And then for whatever reason, he gave me a baritone. So I have a little bit of experience in woodwinds and a little bit of experience in the brass. So that was fine. And and then I was a music major at Lebanon Valley College. I did
Okay.
not finish.
Okay.
I'm a music major dropout.
It's okay.
So it's all good. It's
It's
all
all
good.
good. It's all good.
And then after that, oh my gosh, I continued to accompany various choruses in the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
Um, and then let's see, I'm trying to think where I was next. Well, then I decided I wanted to go back to college in my
Hmm.
mid-30s, and
Hmm.
I ended up deciding to get a degree in special education.
Okay.
I'm always one to root for the underdog,
Hmm.
and whatever I can
Cool.
help to do to, get them where they need to be, was what I wanted
Sure.
to do. So I did that, and I worked for IU 20 and Bethel Mary Vocational Technical School as a special education liaison and so on, and supervisor, and then I moved to Arizona,
Hmm.
and so the music took a backseat, and I
Okay.
was the I jokingly say I was the emotionally disturbed teacher at Mesquite High School in Gilbert, Arizona, for my last 12 years of teaching.
Got
So that
it.
kind of explains a lot about me.
Sure.
I had a blast.
Yeah.
We had so much fun. I love those kids. And I did not do much then,
Mhm,
but I
mhm,
knew I was planning to retire in 2015 when
mhm,
I turned 65. So I
mhm,
thought, okay, I have always been wanting to play the string bass.
mhm,
So I thought, okay, when I go back, when I retire, I'm going to go back to the Lehigh Valley because I have
mhm,
two grandsons here,
mhm.
and I need to do something in music. So if I want to learn to play the bass, I better do it now. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. So at
Sure. Sure.
age 62, I I start taking string bass lessons. And I'll never forget the look on my teacher's face when he first saw me. It was like, "Oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?" But we had a good time. So, for 3 years, a
Mhm.
little over 3 years, I took lessons from him. And then, moving back here, I had a really good solid foundation to
Okay.
be brave enough to look for community orchestras or bands to
Yeah.
play in.
Yeah.
My only, contact at the only place I found at the time was, Moravian College. It was Moravian College at the time,
Right.
and I
Right.
happened to know the conductor, Don Spieth. I had, played the, piano for him when he was
Okay.
doing one of the, local Broadway shows, and, so I go there and he said, "Yep, come on in. No audition necessary." So there I am, and the music was challenging,
Yeah.
and it still is. I'm still
Mhm.
in their orchestra, and it's still my most challenging place.
Sure.
But when I was there was another adult community member,
Mhm.
and his name was Ken, and he belonged to the Lehigh Valley Pops, and he belonged to this something whatever called the RTO, and so he said, "Oh, you have to come, you have to come." So then I'm in there. So I go and I join the Lehigh Valley Pops, and I joined the RTO, the Really Terrible Orchestra.
Yep.
And there was another fellow there named Ed, and he got me into the Reading Philharmonic,
Mhm.
and I am now the assistant conductor of the Reading Philharmonic and playing bass. Um, and then I became the conductor of the Really Terrible Orchestra because George Fennell didn't want to do it anymore. He
Mhm.
was retiring. And one day he just handed me the whole box of scores, and there I was. Okay. So it was a whole learning process, but
Yeah.
it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, it's awesome to hear how you kind of got. We always joke about this in the community music making field. You get involved with one, and then you realize that you're involved with so many, and you got sucked in, you know. And it's good and it's bad sometimes because it takes a lot of time, as we all know. But it's also a lot of fun. But I wanted to jump back just a little bit. I didn't actually know about bass clarinet or baritone. And it's kind of neat that you did, some performances, accompaniment throughout that time. Now, I know music took a back seat and then you went off to teaching and stuff. So,
Mhm.
first of all, I have two questions about that, and then we'll kind of get into some other things. So, what did you notice? And it's not deliberate. That's not what I'm looking for here, but you noticed music making wasn't part of the staple of you anymore. Yet when you retired, you came back to it. So
Yeah.
if you could remember, what was it about the music making that, and first of all, inspired you to come back? Let's ask that.
Okay. Um, being a teacher in special education
Hmm.
is very stressful.
Hmm. Sure.
And
Hmm.
as much as I love doing it, it was a lot of stress.
Hmm.
And I just had it in my head that I have got to get back to my music. It's got to clear my head. Maybe it will turn me back into normal again. But and I say that very tongue in cheek because
Hmm.
that's something that we, in the special education world, we don't consider them abnormal. And I certainly did not mean to imply that at all.
No, no.
And but I just I knew it was something that I just had to get back to. I
Okay.
I just had to. I knew I had to do something in retirement. I'm
Hmm.
not one to just sit around and do nothing.
Right.
And that just seemed like the logical place to go.
Well, that's great. And I guess like what I'm trying to get at to, and it's awesome that you've gotten involved and you realize the busyness of your job. And by all means, let me just share. I've been told stories of people who are trauma nurses, who are people who are, have really high stress positions. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I'm so thankful for those people, but at the same time, it's like you got to unwind. But I'm just interested, what was what was it about the music that you wanted to get involved with a little bit? And that's and it might be hard to explain. And it might be something that you'd be like, I don't know, because that's okay. But I'm just interested in that because I always look for that connection of like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to music making because no offense, you could have did something else during retirement, you know. I'll say it that way.
Well, there really wasn't anything I wanted to do. In fact, when I ended up being a mid-career student, going back to school for my special ed degree, I actually had three choices. I was interested in special ed, I was interested in math, and
Hmm.
I was interested in music. But I chose the profession that I knew that would make me very marketable at the
Right.
time.
Hmm.
So, and that's kind of what I did that. But also as I was thinking about retirement, um, and deciding to take up the bass,
Hmm.
um, it was just something I just had in the back of my head. I always wanted to play the bass. I always wanted to be the bass player. I just always did.
Yeah.
And um, so when I started taking lessons, it was so hard. And like I said, I was in my mid 60s there, and
Hmm.
it was so hard. And I remember my first year or so, I'd be looking for, okay, where's the B flat on the D string? Oh my gosh, I can't find the B flat on the D string.
Uh-huh.
And 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 the light didn't hit yet. It just
Sure.
didn't hit.
Sure.
But I also remember thinking, I have to use every single cell in my brain
Hmm.
to learn how to play this instrument. I
Hmm.
can't think of anything else. If
Yep.
I think of something else and my concentration wanders,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm just done. I lose it, and then I have to find myself again.
Yeah. Right.
But I also remember the day when the light lit, as far as where I can find the notes, if we're going up the neck on the bass. I remember that day so clearly, and I thought, oh my gosh, my teacher didn't tell me this, but it was probably better that he didn't, because I had to find it out for myself. I had
Right.
to figure it out for myself. And that made it all the more meaningful. And after that, it was a piece of cake. It's still very hard to, make your left hand go one way and your right hand go the other way, and read the music on the page, and
Sure.
make it sound like something that people would want to listen to.
Right. Yeah, and you described it so well because, and here's where I'm asking these questions. I hear a lot in adults that have done it before. This is kind of the whole point of this podcast, and I'm sure the people listening to this has heard me say this a bunch of times. People kind of do it for a while, go through school, and then stop, or there's other reasons, stop. And by any means, I did want to say this too. It's okay that you stopped, being a music major. You don't have to be a music major to be a musician,
Right.
and then you stop, and then people come back to it. And I know it's so difficult. And I always describe, I get that, but it's like how you just said, it's like you remember that day when it all just clicked, and it will happen for everybody, in my opinion. And I'm just interested, like you made a comment about your teacher at the time that was teaching you bass. saying, "Oh, what did I get myself into?" And I was just interested if you not bashing any music teacher. That's not what I'm saying here, but it's different with adults, right? Because they're coming in for a specific purpose and they're not children, and it's a different format. And I was just interested if you could explain that a little bit of what was challenging and also what was gratifying as you move through that process.
Sure. Well, what was challenging is the fact that I'm 5 feet tall, and everybody always comments, "Oh my gosh, it's bigger than you." And my comeback is, "Everything is bigger than me." That
Right.
so what? So I use a stool to sit on and give myself some leverage there. Um, so that was a little challenging.
Okay.
My teacher was really good about me being an adult. He was surprised at first because he was surprised,
Yeah.
and but we got to be really good friends. And I told him that I was renting a bass for 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months, um, I, he needed to tell me if I was a lost cause or if I should keep on going.
Right.
If if I was supposed to keep on going, he was going to have to help me buy a bass. So,
Hmm. Sure.
um, so we did that, and there happened to have been a place in Chandler, Arizona, called the String Emporium.
Okay. Mhm.
And so we made an appointment. The fellow knew I was coming. The owner of it was also a bassist with the Phoenix Symphony.
Okay. Very
So
nice.
when we get there, these two men know each other. And they know they were friends with, the same people. So they're there chatting away, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hello, I'm here to buy a bass. It all worked out, and I still have that bass, but so that was challenging,
Mm,
but getting to that point was also gratifying
hmm.
because
Sure.
he knew that he told me he believed in me that I should keep on going, that I was not a lost cause, and he had all the confidence in the world in me to keep going and to become. And I told him off the bat, I don't want to be a professional bassist. There's no way I want to do that. I just want to find some little group to play with.
Yeah.
And and I think that that's what's important um, about music. You want to play with someone, with other people. It's fine to take lessons and just play for your teacher. It's no fun. It's no fun unless you're playing with someone else or a bunch of other people. And
Yeah.
it's a very social thing. It brings people together, and that's what's gratifying about it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with that. I think it provides, and I know a lot of people do solo things, and lessons are great because you can individualize, fix things, as you know, as being a teacher and a musician. But I do agree too that there's that magic that happens when you're in an ensemble.
Yes,
And
magic is a great word for it.
yeah, and I'm just interested if you want to explain it a little bit. And I know we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. We can get into some of the ensembles that you do today. Um, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's like, I mean, I know you're more in a conductor role now with some of the groups. Like, what are you what do you see when you see folks kind of come into, the rehearsal per se, and together they make music? Like, I don't know, it might be a hard thing to describe. I'm just interested to see what you have to say about that.
And it's just so amazing when I took over as conductor for the RTO. Um, I was also kind of in charge of giving concerts and introducing songs, and the conductor before me, George, he would always tell jokes in between. Well, I'm not a joke teller. I
Hmm.
I don't
Sure.
I can never remember the punchline. And so anyway, I've developed my own little thing with getting the audience members knowing about who's in the orchestra. We talk about the ages of the people in the orchestra. I have one fella in RTO, he's 93, plays the trumpet.
Mhm.
Another one is 91. Sometimes he plays the clarinet, sometimes he plays the flute, sometimes he plays the trombone, sometimes he plays the trumpet. I don't care what instrument he plays. He just comes in and he plays whatever he wants to play. He's 91 years old. He can play whatever he wants to play. Um, and so we talk about the ages, and we have a couple teenagers who are in the RTO, and everything in between. Who are these people? Some of them are retired music teachers.
Mhm.
Many of them are engineers, whether they are currently employed or retired. It's
Yeah.
amazing how many engineers we have in the RTO. Um, um, and we have, everything in between,
Mhm.
everything in between. Um, some people can't come because they're taking care of their mother who has dementia.
Mhm.
Um, and so I say, come when you can.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, we'd like you to commit to coming, but if you
Mm.
can't make it one day, we're all adults. We have other responsibilities.
Right.
Okay, I understand that, and family
Right.
comes. So, oh, I don't know. And then in talking, and then we became so big when I first started conducting, there were maybe 20, 25 of us.
Mhm.
And now we have 40 people coming to rehearsals. And it's crazy. And we're still playing for some senior living communities.
Okay.
And but some of the venues that we've played at in the past have become too small to hold all 40, 45 of us when we're all together. Um, so I ended up starting a string orchestra under the RTO umbrella. So we
Yeah,
now
yeah.
have the RT, the RTSO, the really terrible string orchestra. And we have about 20 people in that. And some of the people are from RTO,
Right.
but I have several people who are not in RTO, and they are so thrilled that I started this. We rehearse on a Sunday afternoon,
Okay.
and some of them love that time slot so they don't have to go out and drive in the dark. So,
Mm.
we're
Mhm.
getting people of that age group where driving in the dark is not, and they don't like doing it anymore. They don't
Right.
trust themselves. And
Mhm.
I understand that too.
Mhm.
And it's close by, and we're using I've ordered music that's quite accessible. They don't have to practice an hour every day to get these pieces under their
Right.
belt, but they're just cute little things.
Yeah.
And we're working on a Christmas concert, so we have several Christmas songs in there, and so on. Um, um, and that's one thing that the original Really Terrible Orchestra out was started in Edinburgh, Scotland,
Mhm.
by Alexander McCall Smith.
Okay.
And he designed it so that um, adults who haven't played their instrument in 20 years could have a place to go. And if you look them up online, it's very interesting how they got started. I think they started with 10 people, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just the fact of getting together and okay, I had this talent. I had this ability to play an instrument, and gosh, I'd like to get back to that. And I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I wish I would have learned how to play the piano. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did actually. Well, there's a couple questions. I was actually going to have you talk a little bit about the really terrible orchestra, which you did. So
Mhm.
that's actually really good of what the concept is. And as we talked, I think, there's other groups like the New Horizons band program that's kind of similar to that does the same thing. But I know this is in the orchestra world where it's folks can come out and kind of get restarted again, or if they even didn't play an instrument again, or before they can start. And I'm just actually interested. Getting back to that kind of that magic of everything, like you went from the original orchestra that you have of PA, you went from 20 to 40. And that's amazing to hear so many people coming out to support and be involved. But I'm interested in what I'm going to go back to that magic thing. What is it about that ensemble and the magic that you're hearing from those participants of, why they're participating, why they're coming out?
You just want to be there. They want to have fun. And if they make a mistake, it's okay. And if they can't play every note, it's okay. There's benefit to just sitting there and listening to everybody play and following along on your music. Eventually you'll get it.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
can only play the first note of every measure, okay. There's no judgment, there's no audition. Um, and one of the violin players in the Reading Philharmonic said to me one time, um, she actually gave me a small handmade gift at Christmas.
Okay.
And she said, I really appreciate how the how your relaxed attitude toward music,
Hmm.
comes through, and how you want it to be fun.
Hmm.
And, it's not very strict, and, make sure you play an up bow on this note, and here's a crescendo, and make sure you get it nice and soft here. Um, and she said, I just really appreciate that relaxed attitude
Yeah.
that I had toward it. And maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I'm very accepting. And maybe that's from my time as a special ed
Hmm.
teacher. But in special ed, we weren't allowed to turn away any students. I'm not turning anybody away in RTO either. Um, so it's just a place where they can relax, have fun, talk with other people that are playing their instrument. And we do have people who just started taking up their instruments a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And these are people my age who have just, did what I did at age
Yeah.
60. Oh, I think I wanted to learn how to play the violin. Okay. And they go out and they do it.
And that's awesome, and I was actually gonna say that to you, not to use the words wrong, but you made the comment earlier in the beginning of how you want to help the underdogs, how you wanted to help, the special education or help those. And then I'm not trying to label anything the wrong way,
Understood.
but how like you're just helping people who needed extra help to do something. And that's exactly what you're doing in in this realm too, because it's
Hmm.
it's just amazing to see you're I understand the whole, I call it the cutthroat musician kind of attitude where it's like, oh, you can't play like this, and oh, and it's like you're out, done, goodbye. I mean, it's like that one chance kind of thing where you're educating folks that they can do it and challenging them to whether they can actually make music. And yeah, they're going to make mistakes. So what? You learn from
Yep.
those mistakes, you know?
Absolutely. And the other thing is, and maybe it's from my training as a special education teacher, I can write parts for very, very new beginners.
Yeah.
So I'm used to adapting and teaching in a way. It it's almost like, oh, I think I said to someone, I know what mistakes you're going to make.
Mhm.
And 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 this is one of the mistakes you're going to make. Okay,
Sure.
so watch that part right there. Um, and I don't know. I think I'm able to make it accessible.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't pick real hard music, but I don't pick real easy music either
Right.
for them to play because, we do have some very, very good, players on their instruments. One of our clarinet players was in the Marine Corps
Hmm.
and was a drum major in the Marine Corps
Wow.
and played with the Marine Corps band for state dinners and in Washington, D.C. at the White House. And he's really good. So I have to have something
Yeah.
that can give him a challenge as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's what I was going to actually ask you. And I know this is a challenging thing, as I say, for a conductor, because I deal with this too. And I'm sure you brought it up right now. It's like you have people in all different areas of music making, as far as of where they are, with their lessons, where they are with their instrument proficiency, and all of those kind of things. And yet you're bringing them all together into one ensemble to make music together. And I was just wondering if you could share just a little bit about what things you do to make sure people are successful, obviously, and then also make sure that, the people who are there are challenged and want to be there. Because, I mean,
yes,
if they're not challenged or not, having fun, they're not involved, they're just, oh, well, this isn't, I'll go find something else kind of thing. You know what I mean? But that's not the case.
right.
So I was just
Right.
interested as, as a conductor, teacher, what you could say about that as far as keeping kind of everybody as much as you can. I know you can't do it all the time, but in tow, as I say.
Mhm. Yes. Well, I think it's the relaxed attitude. We have a lot of fun. I make sure I am embarrass almost everyone, almost at least through a whole year. That we take to and when they first come in, I have to embarrass them right off the bat. Whatever I can do to make them feel comfortable and you're part of us. We don't care how good or how bad you play, and just be here. And I find I really don't have to do much because once they decide to come, they're in. They've
Yeah.
probably either heard about us or seen us on our website
Yeah.
or have been to one of our concerts or they just started taking lessons and their teacher belongs to RTO
Yeah.
and they come in and we have some of that. We have some of teachers coming in, teachers bringing their students in, and I'm not sure I can put my finger on it. We just we and maybe that's the magic part.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's something, it's something to say about that where it's like, they just start showing up, and like they're there and they're interested and they enjoy it and it's, and it just seems like you have that knack. And I know it's hard to, there's no egos here. It's not what I'm asking, but it's that knack of being able to keep everybody interested in coming there and involved and obviously having successful concerts, and all those kind of things, But and I have to say I do feel like I'm getting that like kind of, sit back, more relaxed feeling is what a lot of people do need because, in today's world, it's so stressful to do everything and everybody's at everybody, it's like,
Mhm. And and when I say embarrass them, I never embarrass them regarding their playing.
yeah,
In an orchestra rehearsal, yes. Okay, let's hear the first and second violins play, this part. Okay. And then over here, but at one point, one of the basses asked, apparently they had the exact same thing, every measure for the entire song. It was a little part of the Nutcracker. And he said, can you give me can you give us a cue like when we're two measures from the end so we know when to stop? Oh, and it happened to have been only the second rehearsal he had been at, so he was brand new. And I, oh. So you want me to give you you don't want to count all the way up to 45, right? So, and I've known him for a couple years, and he took it all in stride, and they all do.
Yeah.
They all do. My reputation must precede me that I tease everybody,
Yeah.
and we just have a good time.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of that interaction, that you're giving that I think they enjoy and they kind of pick up on because, you're sitting there thinking how you're giving them a hard time or, embarrassing them or teasing them and they're loving it because they're like, oh, it's like
They
she's
do.
asking me a couple questions, and get me think about things differently. And I think that's the fun part about it. And I'm so happy that that's happening there because I think it all adds to it. I mean, we talk about the music making, we talk about the learning and all those kind of things, but I think there has to be something said about the community side of it, where everybody comes together and is working together for this one goal and how you get to that goal, right?
Right, right. Exactly,
So
exactly.
so as like, why we're thinking a little bit about this, and I wanted to hear just a little bit for you. I know you slipped into these conductor roles and I know you still play and I know you do those kind of different things. And I was just seeing if you could share a little bit about it because what you enjoy about coming to these ensembles and being involved and being in the conductor role and those kind of things because like I'm not trying to be smart here. I think it's just amazing to me to hear how you were in music, you stopped for a little bit, you came back to music, and now like you're in front of people helping people making music, which I think is amazing and I think is awesome. So I'm just interested to hear of what it does for you as a musician, as a teacher, as a conductor, that kind of thing. What you get out of it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. Well, and first of all of this is volunteer work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I actually tried to convince the one group I'm in to not pay me, but I
Hmm.
couldn't convince them of that, so I get a small stipend from them, but
Hmm.
um, uh, let's see, how did I become conducting?
Hmm.
Well, when I first joined RTO, I was playing the bass,
Hmm.
and George was conducting, and he'd been talking about retiring and so on, and but he would also bring in college students over the summer
Hmm.
and allow them to conduct. These were music majors, and
Sure.
allow them to conduct. So okay, so one summer they go back to school, and so I said to him, I said, could I try conducting a piece or two?
Hmm.
And he said, sure. And I had no recollection at all of what he gave me to do. And so I did it. Now that was week number one. Week number two, he gave me more to do. And the third week, he said, okay, here are all the scores. You're the conductor of the RTO. And luck, I'm so very grateful to him because he stayed, and he's the most. He was also conducting the Lehigh Valley Pops Orchestra at the time, and he is the best community orchestra conductor ever. He taught you how to be in a community orchestra,
Hmm.
and by watching him, he taught me how to be a conductor.
Hmm.
and he and his wife stayed on playing in the RTO, which I was very grateful for because there were times when I didn't know what to do, and
Sure.
and I how do I do this? And he told me, you
Yeah.
know,
That's
and
nice.
I have no qualms about me making a mistake or me goofing things up,
Hmm.
or we had to do it one more time for me because
Hmm.
I missed the ending. I wasn't at the same place you were, you know, and I guess that's part of it. I've this very self-deprecating sense of humor,
Hmm.
and I'm always willing to blame myself when things go awry.
Hmm.
Um,
Sure.
so, and what do I get? What I get out of it is when the musicians come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I'm having so much fun. Uh, uh, thank you for starting this new string orchestra. I'm really having a good time."
Mhm.
And the audience, when the audience and and I always want to make sure that the audience is applauding for the orchestra and not me.
Mhm.
It's not me. I put it all together. But
Yeah.
without them, there would be no sound
Right.
coming out.
Right.
And so I want to make sure that they have that connection. And I'm not shy about having an encore on hand. And I will say to the audience as we've played our last piece, somebody holler encore, and they holler encore. And so then we play an encore. And I also get, and for the encore, we've been using the Muppet theme. And I have a person from from the audience come up and conduct.
Okay.
And we were playing this. This was before the pandemic. We were playing at Graysdale, which is the
Mhm.
Northampton County um, home,
Mhm.
and there was a fella there. His name was Alfie,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time, but he scooted around in a chair with wheels. It wasn't a
Okay.
wheelchair,
Right.
but he would use his feet to scoot around. and he was always there. He was always in the front row, and he was always keeping time with his body. And in talking to him, found out that he had played the trumpet
Oh.
when he was in high school. And so at one of our concerts, um, for the encore, I asked if he would conduct the orchestra.
Mhm.
He got up, stood up, walked out of his chair, walked to the podium. That was the only time anybody had ever seen him walk.
Wow.
Got to the podium, and I always start him off, and he conducted, and he took a bow, and I always get teary-eyed
Yeah.
when I think about him and doing that. That's what I get out of it, when people react that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, that's a great story, and thank you for sharing it. I mean, it's amazing to see people doing that, and I know uh, I'll just share this really quickly. It was a drum corps, and I always talk about this. I watched, and I'm not trying to be rude in saying it this way. Like I watched people come in for this was an indoor show. It wasn't a
Mhm,
marching thing. It was just on
mhm.
stage, and I've watched these people kind of come in with their wheelchairs, their walkers. Life has gotten older, and I'm not trying and hard, I should say. I shouldn't say
Sure.
older, but hard. And they came in and they came out on stage and they stood. And I mean, I swear, like they put that instrument in their hand and they stood in uniform and they were a totally different person. And I think exactly what you described there is that, just like all that went by aside, you know,
Yes,
and
yes.
not that, I just think it was that's just an amazing story because I always think about that, like what it motivates people to do things and what can physically happen too, and how you can see that physically occur,
Yes.
and it's just and that's great. And it's great to hear that's what you like to do it. I think, I kind of sense that connection with you just because it just seems like, money aside and everything else aside, right?
Mhm.
It's more about that connection and making music and the love of the arts and just, working with people to get them to
Absolutely.
do something to express.
Yeah. And then we play for the people at Lutheran Manor.
Hmm.
Some places that we play, they send us a check, 75, 100, $200.
Right.
We don't send invoices or anything like that.
Right.
If they don't give us anything, fine. But the people at Lutheran Manor, They have nothing. I had
Hmm.
several. I had an aunt, and my mom had a cousin who lived there, and they have nothing.
Right.
They have nothing. They take up a collection, and between the, I don't know, 25, 30 people who were there, that they
Mhm.
collect $75, and that just
Yeah.
does me in. Oh, now you got me crying.
Number two, sorry about that. No, it just shows how much you care about it, and that's what that warms my heart. So,
It
I
shows how much they appreciate. That's
yeah.
that's what I why I do it.
Yeah, and I think that's just the gift of music. I mean, I just feel like, that's as a music teacher, and I feel you feel this way, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it's just, it's the gift of music that it can do for other people. And I think, appreciate it. Of the other side of whatever happens or is given, just seeing people connected is just, that's just amazing. And I think that's having those experiences, I think, add to it because,
Mhm.
and I'm glad you're, I don't know. It's just, I could talk about this for hours. It's just,
I could too if I could stop tearing up. I'm so sorry.
uh, well, that's good. Well, and so as we're kind of wrapping up this podcast here and, talking a little bit about it, I thought I wanted to get a little ideas of you sharing your words of wisdom. And this can be a deep question, and we're kind of there already philosophically, but I'm interested in hearing from you what you say to folks who do come out to RTO, or you do see who is interested in making music again. My main focus here. I'm interested in seeing what you tell them, what advice you give them, what how you inspire them to kind of come out and to get involved, because I think, as I said in the beginning of this podcast and throughout a lot of them that I'm doing, it's just, it hurts my soul to watch people do it or not do it, and then there's not so many involved with it anymore today. I know there's still groups that exist,
Mhm.
and such as yours, but I just love seeing people making music. So I'm just interested in what thoughts, ideas, advice you give to others.
4 words, it's never too late. Um, and I'm the poster child for it's never too late.
Mhm.
Starting on a string bass, which is obviously taller than I am. When I see pictures of me while I'm playing the string bass, it looks so ridiculous. I mean, it's like, what was she thinking? And just the other night, a violin player said to me something about, she was complaining about having to carry her violin all the way across campus. And then she said, and now I'm looking at you, as I'm toting my string bass on my wheels out the door.
Yep.
Um, it's just never too late. If you want to do it, you'll find a way. If you don't have an instrument, we'll find an instrument for you.
Hmm.
I have several instruments in my back room that I'm willing to, give away. Um,
Hmm.
whatever obstacles are in your way, they can be overcome.
Hmm.
If you really, really want, but you also have to know, and I've had people do this. Um, if you want to take up any instrument, you're going to sound terrible at first.
Hmm.
You will. You just will. No doubt about it. It's going to take probably, oh, it depends. It depends on the instrument. It depends on the person. But don't expect to get any decent sound out in the first 6 months, I would say.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of screeching. Um, but it's never too late, and we can overcome almost any obstacle. If you have difficulties seeing the music on the sheet, we can make it bigger.
Hmm.
If you have difficulty holding a string bass, we can get you a stool to sit on to allow you to reach up at the top there. Um, just do it. If you really want to do it, we can help you do it.
Well, thank you. Very well said. I mean, very well said. And I say that because I think everyone gets a little nervous about coming and doing something like that. And it's nice how you say that you can do it because, I mean, goodness gracious, you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I laugh because I think a lot of times in learning, we think about children and that's the only time you can suck in that information. And yes, it's true. I mean, there's studies that will show all of that and how quick they
Easier
pick up
then.
things and it's easier,
Mhm.
but it's not it can happen. And you're a prime example who's stepped up learning the string bass all the way to now conductor and continuing and challenging others and helping others and making
Yeah,
music with others. And it's just that's what's amazing.
thank you.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And I appreciate first of all, thank you for reaching out to me after our Music Fest performance. That was very appreciative
Mhm.
because it was just a fun endeavor I did. And I appreciate you watching that.
Well, I'm so glad you did it, and like I emailed you. I wish I would have attended. I didn't realize there was going to be this whole historical perspective of the
Yeah,
Bethlehem Steel there. Many of my family members, me included, have worked at Bethlehem Steel, so
yeah.
that was I wish I would have gone, but thank you very much for recording it.
Yeah, definitely. I know. And I always joke it all started with a picture that was at Steel Stacks in the Arts Quest building. And it's just it I always share that because it's how it got me interested. And I was like,
Right?
huh, they had a band? Really? And from
Yes.
there it's been years and it was just amazing to see everyone come together and then talk about it too. It was just nice to
Very impressed.
well, thank you. And I just want to also thank you for giving back to others. And I know as teachers, I know we probably don't take this as all the time as we should, but thank you for your time and dedication to the RTO and helping people make music. Because I mean, it's nice to have people out there who are getting people to make music and you sharing and being fun about how, hey, I'm playing this string bass that's bigger than me, kind of attitude. And you can do it too. Like, come on, get out of here. That's just
Yes, you can.
it's just a great manner. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that. And thank you for the years of service and the years of service to come. So
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you so much, Carol.
You're welcome.